You ever look at a family photo and feel like it's mocking you? Like every smile was a secret, every hug a betrayal? That's what happened the morning I dusted the mantel. Just another Tuesday in northern Michigan, wind slapping against the windows and coffee going cold on the counter. I was humming some silly tune, wiping the frames, when my eyes landed on that portrait, me, Michael, Mom, and Ellie. Taken at our 35th anniversary dinner. We were all smiles. But only one of us was blind. My name is Diane Roth. I'm 61 years old. I've been a wife for 38 years, a mother for 35, and a daughter all my life. And for the past 2 decades, I was living with strangers who wore the faces of family. You don't know you're in hell until the fire touches your skin. My fire came softly. A scent. A slip. A goddamn bottle of perfume. I had bought Mom her favorite lavender linen spray last Christmas, ordered it from a boutique in Oregon. Limited edition. Expensive as hell. She was thrilled, said she'd keep it at her condo downtown. So when I found the exact same bottle tucked under our master bathroom sink, I froze. Not just same brand, same bottle. Her handwriting still on the label, "Don't overspray, makes me sneeze." At first, I rationalized. Maybe she left it during a sleepover. Maybe Michael borrowed it to surprise her. Except, when had my mother ever stayed over in our bedroom? That night, I asked Michael, casually, careful not to sound accusatory. "Hey, did you ever use that lavender spray Mom liked?" He didn't flinch. He's good like that. Too good. "What spray?" he said, yawning, scratching his neck like a man too bored to lie. But it was the scratch that did it. I'd seen Mom do the same thing, exact same gesture, every time she lied at Sunday brunches growing up. Tilt of the head, scratch of the neck, pretend confusion. I laughed. Out loud. That ugly kind of laugh when you know everything is about to collapse and you're still pretending it's a joke. The clues unraveled faster after that. A shared necklace. Her scarf in our guest room. The burner phone I found hidden in Michael's shaving kit, filled with messages that made me gag. "Miss your hands. Lunch Tuesday, same room. She's clueless." And photos. Blurry, but clear enough. My mother's hands. My mother's smile. My mother's body, tangled with my husband's. I didn't confront them, not yet. I went silent. I needed time to think. Plan. Because the universe wasn't done with me. No, it had saved the sharpest knife for last. Ellie. My daughter. My bright, beautiful girl with the sweet voice and journalistic curiosity. She had been different lately, distant, jumpy around me, oddly protective of Michael. So I did what mothers do. I poked gently. "You okay, sweetheart?" She hesitated, then nodded. But her eyes didn't match her words. The truth came from her old phone. I was helping her pack for a short trip to Chicago when she handed me the wrong one, her backup phone. And on it, voicemails. Deleted ones. Backed up into her archive. I listened. "Ellie, it's Nana. You did good keeping quiet. She can't know, you hear me? Another one, we'll tell her someday. When it's safe." My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the phone. She knew. My daughter knew. And for how long? Months? Years? Decades. The pain didn't come all at once. It came in waves: grief, disbelief, disgust, rage. But under all of it, there was something colder. Something harder. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to destroy them. Quietly. Precisely. One by one. And it started tonight, with dinner. If you've ever been betrayed by those you loved most, if you've ever looked around a dinner table and wondered which smile was fake, then I want you to stick with me. Because I'm not just going to survive this betrayal. I'm going to rewrite the rules of revenge. If this story pulled at your heart, made you clench your fists or whisper how could they? Please like, share, and subscribe my channel. And tell me in the comments. Where are you from, and have you ever been betrayed by your own family? I made pot roast. Because that's what they love. Michael likes his with carrots and red wine. Jess. Mom pretends she's vegetarian unless there's a bone-in chuck on the table. And Ellie, she always says, this smells like home. I seasoned the meat slowly, hands steady, eyes blank, as if I wasn't about to serve betrayal on a platter. The table was set just right. Silver cutlery polished, wine glasses spotless, candles flickering like witnesses. I even placed the old family photo right in the center, our picture-perfect life framed in mahogany. I wanted them to see it. I wanted them to stare at it and wonder if I knew. Michael walked in first, loosened his tie, kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. Smells amazing, Dee, he said. You outdid yourself. I smiled. It's a special night. Mom came next, draped in a navy shawl that looked suspiciously like the one I thought I'd lost last fall. She kissed my cheek too, her perfume trailing behind her like a ghost. Lavender and betrayal. Then came Ellie, sweet, twitchy Ellie, trying to act normal, but her eyes didn't settle. She hugged me too long, too tight, and I felt her heart racing against mine. We sat. We ate. We laughed. Or rather, they did. I watched. Every laugh from Michael felt like a slap. Every smile from Mom was a spit in my face. Every glance from Ellie made my stomach churn. They thought I was still in the dark. That I was playing the fool. But tonight wasn't about confrontation. No. That would come later. Tonight was about confirming what I already knew. Watching their little charade up close. So, I said sweetly, pouring wine into each glass. To family. Our beautiful, complicated family. They raised their glasses with hollow grins, and I watched their eyes flicker with the slightest hesitation. They knew something felt off, but not enough to stop. Not yet. Halfway through dinner, I casually mentioned that I was thinking of remodeling the bedroom. You know, maybe new wallpaper. Mom, you still have that swatch book you used for your condo? She froze just slightly. Michael glanced at her, then at me. Since when do you care about wallpaper? He asked, laughing nervously. Just want a change, I said, stabbing a carrot. 38 years is a long time to sleep in the same room. Don't you think? That did it. Ellie choked on her sip of wine. Ellie, I said gently, you all right? Fine, she said, too quickly. You sure? I leaned in, my voice soft. You've been awfully quiet lately. Is something bothering you? Her eyes flicked toward her father. Her grandmother. Then back to her plate. No, Mom. Everything's fine. Liar. I could have flipped the table right then. Screamed. Slapped. Made a scene. But I didn't. I needed more. I needed proof that would silence them all. So I dropped one final breadcrumb. I looked at Michael and said, oh, by the way, I'm getting the security footage from the cabin this weekend. He froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. What cabin? Mom asked. Our lake house, I answered calmly. Michael was up there last weekend. Said he needed some space. Right, darling? He nodded. Just some fresh air. I tilted my head. Strange, though. The caretaker said someone else was with you. Ellie's fork hit the plate. Silence. I smiled again. I'm sure it's just a mistake. But I figured the footage might clear things up. You know, for peace of mind. Michael's lips parted, about to speak, but I cut him off. Anyway. Dessert? They didn't stay for pie. Said they were tired. Michael even kissed my forehead like I was a child. Mom said she'd call me in the morning. Ellie couldn't look me in the eye. Good. Because now they knew, I wasn't stupid. I wasn't blind. And I wasn't done. You see, I've already ordered copies of the text messages. Hired someone to pull deleted photos from that burner phone. And the caretaker at the cabin? He's already been paid. What they don't know yet is that I've also changed my will. Opened a separate bank account. Moved my jewelry. Started documenting every interaction. I gave them one last chance tonight to come clean. They didn't take it. Which means the next move is mine. And it's not going to be a quiet one. The next morning, I didn't cry. I didn't curl up in bed or scream into my pillow like the betrayed wives you see in movies. No, I woke up at 6, made coffee like always, and dressed in navy slacks and a cashmere sweater Michael bought me for our anniversary last year. Funny. He said the color brought out my eyes. I stared at myself in the mirror, eyes hollow, colorless. But not dead. Not yet. I drove downtown to a law firm tucked between the bakery and the florist, a quaint little office with ivy growing around the doorway. I'd found it months ago, before I even had proof. A part of me must have known something was rotting under the floorboards. The receptionist smiled warmly and offered me tea, but I refused. I didn't want comfort. I wanted control. Her name was Marcy Chen, my lawyer. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense tone. The kind of woman who could skin a liar with her words. I liked her instantly. You said it was urgent, she began, folding her hands. Divorce? Eventually, I said. But first, I want to talk about inheritance. And power of attorney. And what happens when a woman rewrites her entire life? Marcy raised an eyebrow. Tell me everything. And so I did. Not the full mess, yet. Just the parts that mattered, the burner phone, the texts, the suspicious weekend getaway, the growing trail of betrayal. I didn't name names, not directly. But she understood. The pain must have leaked through my voice like oil through cracked porcelain. I want to rewrite my will, I said. Remove my husband entirely. Remove my mother. Leave only what's necessary to my daughter, if I decide she's worthy. Marcy tapped her pen thoughtfully. That's doable. But if you want more than a will, if you want protection, you'll need to move quickly. If there's shared property, joint accounts, I've already started separating. Quietly. I need you to handle the rest. And I want it airtight. No loopholes. I want to vanish from their reach. She smiled faintly. You're not the first woman to sit in that chair and say those words. But you're the calmest. I don't want rage, I said. I want justice. And leverage. By noon, the paperwork was underway. I gave her the list of assets I hadn't even told Michael about, my father's stocks, my grandmother's pearls hidden in a false drawer beneath my closet. I hadn't touched those pearls in years. They'd been meant for Ellie. Now? I wasn't so sure. Later that afternoon, I did something harder. I drove to Ellie's apartment. She lived just 20 minutes from us, in a stylish little condo we helped her buy after college. Her car was in the lot. I didn't call or knock. I used the spare key she gave me years ago, before she learned to hide her truths. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, making soup. When she saw me, she jumped like she'd been caught stealing. Mom, she said, wiping her hands on a towel. You scared me. I needed to talk, I said calmly, closing the door behind me. About what? I didn't answer right away. Just walked past her, past the kitchen, into her cozy living room, and there, on the bookshelf, was a framed photo. Ellie, Michael, and Mom. Smiling. On the lake dock. A photo I had never seen. A photo from last summer. When I was supposedly visiting my sister in Oregon. It took everything in me not to smash the frame. I'm changing the will, I said instead. Her face strained. What? I spoke to a lawyer. Everything's being updated. All accounts. All instructions. All assumptions. She set the towel down slowly. Why are you telling me this? To give you a chance, I said. To tell me the truth. Silence. Then she swallowed hard and said, I don't know what you mean. God. She couldn't even look me in the eye. I walked to the door. You do know. And you have 1 week to decide what kind of woman you want to be. Because once I'm finished, there won't be any going back. And with that, I left her standing there, surrounded by warm soup and cold secrets. I don't know if she'll confess. I don't know if she'll beg or defend or crumble. But I do know one thing, I'm no longer asking for answers. I'm taking them. The lake house always used to bring me peace. Tucked between tall pines and cedar, it sat on the edge of Lake Huron like a quiet old secret, weathered and waiting. Michael and I bought it 20 years ago as our forever getaway. He used to call it our soul's retreat. Turns out, it was just his hiding place. And hers. My mother's. I parked a mile away and walked the wooded trail in silence, the wind carrying the scent of pine and dead leaves. July had turned dry, and the earth crackled beneath my shoes. I didn't want the neighbors to hear a car. Didn't want a single soul knowing I was there. I had keys, of course. Still on the same ring Michael never thought to ask about. The front door opened with that familiar creak, and for a moment, I stood there, remembering laughter and wine and summer evenings on the porch. Then I stepped inside, and the warmth I remembered turned to rot. It smelled different. Not bad, just not like us. New candles. New towels. A silk robe tossed over the back of the chair that wasn't mine. 2 coffee mugs in the sink, both floral. 1 lipstick stained. And on the kitchen counter, a grocery list written in Mom's handwriting. Plums, red wine, his razors. His razors. Not Michael's. Not your father's. Just his, like she was writing for a man she knew too intimately to need names. I opened drawers. Searched the guest room. Found a pair of earrings, pearl studs. Mom's favorite. In the linen closet was a robe. Her robe. And in the bathroom, a small gold pendant that had belonged to my grandmother. I had given it to my mother on her 70th birthday. Now it lay abandoned in my house, my lake house, like a trophy left behind. But the worst was on the dock. I stepped outside, the wood warm under my feet, the sun shimmering off the water like it had no idea it was lighting up a crime scene. And there, tucked behind a wooden bench, was a burnt cigar in an ashtray. Michael's brand. Next to it, a champagne cork. 2 wine glasses. An empty bottle of Veuve Clicquot with the date still visible, July 3rd. 2 days before he told me he was staying at a conference retreat in Minneapolis. They weren't even hiding anymore. I sat down on the bench, suddenly numb. My body felt too heavy to hold upright, so I leaned back, let the sun pour over me like judgment. I thought I'd feel rage. Instead, I felt something worse, humiliation. My husband. My mother. My daughter. The 3 people I'd protected with every inch of myself, had cut me open and fed off the wound. But this was more than betrayal now. It was war. I took photos of everything. The list, the mugs, the pendant, the ashtray. I cataloged it all and sent it to an encrypted email I'd set up just that week. Then I locked the cabin. Before I left, I stood on the porch and whispered, "Enjoy your hideaway while you can. It won't be yours much longer." On my way back to the car, I called Marcy. "We're moving forward," I told her. "With the divorce?" she asked. "No," I said. "With everything." I didn't just want to leave Michael. I wanted to expose him. Publicly. Methodically. The kind of revelation that doesn't just break hearts, it breaks reputations. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to plead. I was going to ruin him. And Mom. And maybe even Ellie, if she didn't speak up. But first, I needed one more piece. A confession. Something from one of them. And I knew exactly how to get it. Because if you really want to destroy liars, sometimes you have to become one yourself. The most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a knife, it's a carefully crafted sentence whispered into the right ear. I spent the night after my visit to the lake house not sleeping, but scripting. Every line, every pause. I didn't want revenge through rage. I wanted it through panic. Through unraveling. So I decided to plant a lie so poisonous, so believable, that it would make the guilty paranoid enough to reveal themselves. I started with Ellie. The next morning, I called her, voice warm, casual, like nothing had changed. "Sweetheart, can we have lunch tomorrow? I want to tell you something before it becomes public." There was a pause. "What do you mean public?" I smiled softly to myself. "Oh, nothing dramatic. It's just, I had a very interesting meeting with a journalist. Someone from the Times doing a profile on betrayal and long-term infidelity in affluent families. They're using pseudonyms, of course, but I thought you should hear it from me." I might have contributed. Ellie's silence was so loud it nearly cracked the phone screen. I let her hang in it. "I thought you should know," I said. "In case your name comes up." Mom, why would you do that?" "To heal," I replied sweetly. "Sometimes healing means telling the truth." That lie, small, deliciously dangerous, was step one. She'd run straight to them. I was sure of it. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head as she tried to figure out how much I knew. That afternoon, I sat back and waited. And as expected, it began with a text from Michael. "Michael, hey. Ellie said you've been feeling a little off lately. Maybe we should talk. Just us." Of course. Just us. Like always. Like his secrets didn't live in my bedroom. Me, I'd love that. "Why don't we have dinner Friday night? I'll make your favorite." "Michael, you're not mad at me, are you?" "Me, mad? No. Not yet." His reply took 8 minutes. When it came, it was just a thumbs up. And then came the real tell. "My mother called. I heard from Ellie that you've been emotional lately. Is everything all right?" Emotional. That word. They always use it when a woman gets too close to the truth. "I'm fine," I said softly. "Just tired of pretending. You know how that feels, don't you?" There was the briefest inhale, sharp, jagged. "Diane, yes, Mother? I'm worried about you. You sound different." "I am." Then I hung up. That evening, I checked the hidden camera I'd installed in the study last week, one of those tiny motion sensor ones you can hide in a clock. The footage had picked up something earlier that day. Michael in the study. On the phone. Whispering. "She's acting weird. Says she spoke to someone at the Times. No, I don't think she knows everything. But she's playing with me. And I don't like it." Good. He was scared. Exactly where I needed him. Later that night, I texted Ellie again. "Me, lunch tomorrow is still on, right? You might want to bring anything you think I should know before the article drops. It could help you look better." No reply. She was unraveling. So was he. And I knew my mother well enough to know she would now begin to distance herself from Michael. She'd protect her reputation first. They wouldn't turn on me. They'd turn on each other. And I'd be waiting with a front row seat and a recorder. We met at the Silver Finch, a cozy, upscale bistro where Ellie and I used to go when she was in college, back when she told me everything. First crushes, bad grades, career dreams. Before secrets stained her lips like wine. She was already seated when I arrived, clutching a glass of water with fingers so tight they turned white. She looked beautiful in that effortless, manicured way she'd learned from my mother, pearls, soft cardigan, barely their makeup. But her eyes? They were shaking. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, sliding into the booth opposite her. "You look tired." "Did you really speak to a reporter?" she blurted, voice low, brittle. I smiled gently and unfolded my napkin. "I did. She was lovely. Had a lot of questions. I didn't give her names, not yet." "Why would you even talk to someone?" she whispered, eyes darting around the restaurant. "You'll ruin us." "I won't ruin anyone," I said, pausing meaningfully, as long as they weren't involved. Ellie blinked, eyes already welling. "Mom, I didn't do anything." "I swear." "Didn't you?" I asked softly. "You knew." "For how long, Ellie? How many birthdays, holidays, fake smiles? Did you ever look at me and feel anything? Shame? Guilt?" Her bottom lip trembled before her words did. "I didn't want to hurt you." I leaned forward. "So you let me sit next to a man who was sleeping with my mother. You let me toast anniversaries, build memories, plan retirement, while you kept a hand over the knife in my back." Tears rolled down her cheeks, slow and quiet. "I didn't know how to tell you. I thought it would stop. I thought they'd come to their senses. I was just trying to keep everything from falling apart." "It wasn't your job to protect their secret," I said. "It was your job to protect me." Her silence confirmed the truth I already knew. She had chosen comfort over confrontation. Self-preservation over honesty. "I have evidence," I continued, letting the words land like stones in her lap. "Messages. Photos. The lake house. I've already met with a lawyer. The accounts are being separated. My will is being rewritten." Ellie sat frozen. "I'm telling you this," I said, "because you're still my daughter. And because you have one chance to come clean. One. After that, I will no longer protect you. If I fall, you fall with them." "Please don't do this," she said, voice cracking. "You're all I have." "Then why did you protect them?" She looked away. That was all the answer I needed. I dropped a folded envelope on the table before I stood. Inside were copies of the photos from the lake house, and the transcript of a voicemail from my mother to Michael. "You have until Friday," I said. "If you want to tell me everything, do it before then. After that, you become collateral." As I walked out into the summer light, I didn't feel like a mother. I felt like a storm. And storms don't apologize. When you push someone who's built their entire life on performance, they don't crumble gracefully. They panic. And panicked people make sloppy mistakes. I was counting on that. That night, I left Ellie to stew in guilt and drove home in silence. No music. No distractions. Just the sound of my own heartbeat, steady, sharp, almost satisfied. I'd seen the flicker in her eyes, the tightness in her throat. She was breaking. And when someone's breaking, the cracks spread outward. I just needed to keep pressing until one of them split wide open. The next morning, I left my phone on the kitchen counter while I took a walk. But I didn't really go far. Just down the side path, behind the garden, where I could still hear the faint vibrations of the house. I had a second phone in my hand, a cheap prepaid one with no name and no history, just the number I'd given Ellie in that sealed envelope, in case she wanted to confess. I knew she'd use it. I was praying she'd panic and reach out to the one person who might spin this into safety, my mother. At 9:16 a.m., it rang. I let it go to voicemail. 3 minutes later, it rang again. Then again. On the fourth try, I answered, and didn't speak. "Ellie," my mother's voice cracked through the line. "Are you there?" I stayed silent. She sighed, sharp and anxious. "Listen to me, sweetheart. She's bluffing. She's angry and hurt, and she wants to scare you. Don't let her drag you into this. We've worked too hard to keep everything buried." Buried. That word cut into me like a blade. "She won't go to the press," she continued. "She wouldn't risk the family name. She's proud. It's just a tantrum. Trust me, your father and I, we know her. Your father and I. The words hung like a corpse in the air. They weren't slips. They weren't metaphors. They were confessions. My grip tightened around the phone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march through the kitchen and throw open every door. But I didn't. I needed more. She has no proof, Mom whispered. Even if she does, it's hearsay. And Michael's not stupid, he'll delete everything. We just need to stay quiet. Stay calm. But she was neither. I could hear it in the way she breathed, ragged and fast. I'll call Michael, she went on. We'll coordinate. But don't talk to her again. If she records anything, it could get ugly. Understand? I clicked the call to end. Then I hit record on the backup device sitting on the garden table beside me. I had her voice. Her guilt. Her arrogance. It was over. But not publicly, not yet. Later that evening, I emailed the file to myself. To Marcy. And to a private server with a password only I knew. I added it to the evidence folder titled Inheritance of Betrayal. The name made me sick, but it felt true. Just after dinner, Michael came home early. His eyes flicked around the house like a burglar checking for alarms. I was cooking chicken marsala, humming softly, calm as the sea before a hurricane. He kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch. I was thinking, he said, forcing a smile, maybe we should take a trip. Clear our heads. Sounds lovely, I replied. Where? Somewhere quiet. Private. Just us. Private, I echoed, turning the stove off. Is that how you like it best? His face twitched. He knew I knew. But he didn't know how much. And that's the exact amount of power I needed. Revenge is a slow simmer, not a flash boil. If you want it to scorch, you have to let it breathe, build flavor in silence. And I had the perfect setting to serve it, Ellie's birthday dinner. She turned 35 that weekend, and the plan was a small family gathering at her condo, Michael, my mother, Ellie's friends, and me. How poetic. A celebration of the woman who let me rot in the dark, while clapping for the two people who lit the match. I didn't decline the invite. No, I insisted on helping with the cake. Lemon with lavender, I told her. Your favorite. I even offered to bring a photo slideshow, a tribute to her life, her family, her memories. She sounded touched. That's sweet, Mom, she said, her voice small, distant. Just keep it light. I could tell she was terrified I'd use the party as a stage to scream. But I wasn't here to scream. I was here to peel their layers away in front of the people they cared about most. I arrived early. The house was decorated with pale purple streamers and soft jazz humming from the speakers. Ellie had candles burning. She looked perfect on the outside, but the way she barely met my gaze told me everything I needed to know. She hadn't slept. Michael showed up next, casual as ever, like a man who'd mastered the art of pretending. And then, my mother. She walked in wearing ivory. A silk dress. Hair pinned, pearls glowing. The same pearls I'd found in the linen closet at the lake house. She kissed Ellie. Hugged Michael. When she turned to me, I saw it, that flicker. Not guilt. No. Something worse. Confidence. She still believed she was winning. As the guests trickled in, Ellie's friends from college, a coworker, her old dance teacher, I made rounds, smiling, pouring drinks, playing hostess. I even toasted Ellie with a glass of Chardonnay and said, to the woman who taught me how to rebuild, after everything. It was subtle, almost nothing. But I saw my daughter's shoulders tense. I saw Michael's eyes narrow. And my mother's hand tighten around her wine glass. When dinner was served, I plugged in the USB for the slideshow. Oh, no, Mom, that's okay, Ellie began, panic lacing her voice. Nonsense, I said sweetly. Just a few highlights. You'll love it. The first few photos were harmless: baby Ellie on a tricycle, me and Michael at our wedding, my mother holding Ellie as a newborn. Laughter. Nostalgia. Then came the summer lake photos. I'd stitched them together masterfully. One of the lake dock. Then the lake house porch. Then a group of new images that I had subtly included: a wine glass with lipstick, Michael's cigar in an ashtray, the burnt champagne cork, my mother's handwritten grocery list. No faces. Just context. And then I let the final image linger, a scanned snippet of the voicemail transcription. She's bluffing, we've worked too hard to keep everything buried. The room fell into dead silence. A friend coughed. Someone dropped a fork. Ellie looked ready to faint. My mother froze, her eyes flicking like a trapped animal. And Michael, he stood up. What is this? He demanded, trying to keep his voice down. A birthday surprise, I said, sipping my wine. Don't you like it? Ellie stood, visibly shaking. Mom, can we talk privately? I smiled coldly. Why? So you can warn them again? So you can beg me not to tell the truth? Diane, my mother snapped, voice low and furious. Enough. I turned to her, voice quiet but sharp enough to cut skin. No, Mother. Enough was 38 years of my marriage rotting under your lipstick. Enough was letting my daughter grow up watching you crawl into my husband's bed and say nothing. Enough was me staying silent for your comfort. The silence around us thickened like fog. I could feel the eyes. The tension. The shame rippling outward. Michael muttered, "You're blowing this out of proportion." I laughed. Not a light one, a guttural, broken one. Really? Then I guess the journalist I met last week will be thrilled to know I've been so theatrical. She loves drama. That wasn't true, of course. There was no journalist. But the seed had now taken root in every heart in that room. People began excusing themselves. Friends whispering. Eyes flicking toward Ellie, Michael, my mother, judging. This was the beginning of their unraveling. Not explosive. Not violent. But quiet. Precise. Public. Exactly how I wanted it. I didn't need applause. I didn't need revenge served on a silver tray. All I needed was the silence that followed, the crack in the room's oxygen when truth slices through fiction like a scalpel. And now, it was spreading. That evening after the slideshow, Ellie begged me to stop. Her voice trembled in the hallway, hidden from the last lingering guests. Please, Mom. You don't understand what this will do to us. I looked her in the eye. No, Ellie. I understand exactly what it'll do. That's the point. By Monday, the ripple had turned into a tide. Michael came home from work 2 hours early. That never happened. I heard him stomping around upstairs, slamming drawers. He was looking for something. Probably the burner phone. I'd already destroyed it, after copying everything onto a drive. Then came the texts. From his assistant, Mr. Roth, just a heads up, the partners want to meet with you Wednesday. Seems like something stirred up online. From his golf buddy, saw that weird slideshow clip someone posted. Thought it was some Netflix trailer. You okay? Someone had recorded the screen at the party. Probably one of Ellie's friends. And now it was spreading. Meanwhile, Ellie went quiet. She didn't call. Didn't text. But her social media told the story for her. Comments under her birthday photos turned sour. Your mom's slideshow, was that real? You knew all this? Seriously? Loyalty starts at home, babe. She began deleting posts. Hiding. And then, on Tuesday morning, a message landed in my inbox, from someone I hadn't heard from in 12 years. Aunt Claire. My mother's older sister. The family black sheep. She'd moved to Oregon after some fallout no one ever fully explained. But now she was back, at least digitally. Her message was short, but it carried weight. Diane. I saw what happened. I believe you. I always suspected something. Your mother's not the woman she pretends to be. Call me when you're ready. I know things. I sat in my study for a long time staring at the screen. My mother's sister. The one person who'd been exiled from every family event, every holiday. I remember her saying once, "Your mom's mask is stitched too tight. Someday, it'll split." Maybe that day had come. I called her. The voice on the other end was older, raspier, but strong. "I always thought I was the crazy one," Claire said. "Turns out I was just early." She told me stories. Things from their childhood. My mother's pattern of lying. Stealing. Manipulating men and pitting people against each other. How she had once seduced Claire's fiancé. And how Claire left to protect herself. I felt like the world was peeling back one thick, rotten layer at a time. This betrayal wasn't new. It was generational. "I have photos," Claire said. "Letters. From your father. From mine. Your mother's been rewriting her life for decades. And she's not done yet. Unless someone stops her." I thanked her. Promised to call back. I now had an ally. A witness. A second voice of truth. Later that evening, I cooked dinner for myself. Alone. Chicken and green beans. A meal that used to feel like comfort. But comfort was dead in this house. Michael wandered in, sweaty from the gym. He didn't sit. Just hovered near the counter. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't even look up. "Then talk." His jaw flexed. "You're destroying everything. You're dragging our daughter into this, humiliating me, poisoning your own mother's reputation." "My mother," I said flatly, "poisoned herself." He took a step forward. "Diane, for God's sake, what do you even want from all this?" I stood. Walked to the fridge. Opened it. Pulled out a bottle of water. Took a long sip. Then I turned to him and said, "I want you to live in fear. Just like I lived in ignorance." He flinched, just slightly. And that's when I knew, this wasn't just revenge anymore. This was reclamation. They thought this was just a phase. That I would unravel in grief, curl into a ball, and wait for apologies that would never come. But what they didn't understand, what they never understood, was that I don't beg. I build. Quietly. Methodically. And this time I was building a noose. Aunt Claire sent a package overnight. Inside were old black and white photos, yellowed letters from my grandfather detailing a pattern of behavior, and, most shocking of all, a journal entry from Claire's fiancé, the man my mother had seduced decades ago. In it, he described how he was manipulated into a months-long affair with her while still engaged. It wasn't just betrayal. It was pathology. But the final piece wasn't paper. It was a VHS tape. I had to borrow an old player from a neighbor. It crackled and blurred as it loaded, but there they were, my mother and Claire, arguing in a living room I vaguely remembered from childhood. Claire yelling, "Mom calm and smug," sipping tea as she said, "He chose me. Just like they always do. You're just jealous." And suddenly, I could hear her voice in my head, the same voice that had cooed at me while my husband was between her sheets. It wasn't just personal. It was inherited. I knew what I had to do. I called a family reconciliation meeting, a term so neutral it made even Michael agree. "Let's clear the air," I said over dinner. "Let's talk. Just us. This Saturday. At the lake house." The lake house. The altar of their betrayal. Ellie was hesitant. "Is this another ambush?" "No, sweetheart," I said, calmly. "This is just truth. With witnesses. I invited them all, Michael, my mother, Ellie. But I also invited Claire. And Marcy. My lawyer. I didn't tell anyone else she was coming. She would attend as a friend of the family. Quietly recording everything. Saturday came. Bright and sunny. The lake shimmered like a secret trying to keep still. I arrived early. Set the table. Placed the teapot, Mom's favorite blend, in the center like a trophy. Made sure the living room was clean, quiet, neutral. When they arrived, they were tense. Michael in jeans and a button-down, trying to act like a man in control. My mother in her usual crisp ivory, hiding behind Grace. Ellie in muted tones, her hair up in a way that made her look younger. Nervous. All of them trying to figure out what this was. I greeted them with a smile and ushered them in. Claire came in a few minutes later, quietly, no fanfare. Sat in the corner with a notepad. No one blinked. Saturday, I wanted to bring us together, I said softly, because there's too much poison between us to ignore. And because I believe the truth deserves a seat at the table. Michael rolled his eyes. So this is a performance. My mother sipped her tea. Honestly, Diane, I think you're becoming obsessive. You're hurting yourself more than anyone else. Ellie didn't speak. I nodded. Okay. If I'm wrong, prove it. I placed a flash drive on the table. Here's a copy of the voicemail you left for Ellie. The one where you told her to stay quiet. Here's a photo of your grocery list, Mom, in my lake house. And here's the timeline of every overnight stay Michael claimed was for business, all cross-referenced with utility usage at the lake. I looked at my daughter. Ellie, I have every deleted voicemail. Every text. Every burner phone record. Every moment you stood by and let it happen. The room went still. Michael's mouth opened, then shut. My mother finally cracked, her smile gone. Her jaw tight. But Ellie broke first. I didn't want this, she burst out, tears forming. I didn't know how to stop it. She said it would ruin everything if I told you. Dad said you'd break. They made me choose. You chose wrong, I said coldly. And then, Claire spoke. Actually, she said, standing, this isn't the first time Evelyn, she nodded at my mother, has done this. She did it to me too. 42 years ago. The room gasped. Even Michael looked stunned. I thought I was alone, Claire said, voice shaking. But now I see, this is who she's always been. I turned to Marcy, who stood and placed a document on the table. These are the updated will revisions. The asset transfer plans. And a cease and desist order for any further contact with Mrs. Roth until further legal notice. My mother finally spoke. You wouldn't dare. I smiled. Oh, but I already did. And with that, I stood. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just looked each of them in the eye and said, this isn't a reconciliation. This was your reckoning. Then I walked out of the house that once held my marriage, my daughter's childhood, and my mother's sins, feeling lighter than I had in years. Revenge tastes different once it's spoken out loud. It's no longer a fantasy or a whispered threat, it's movement. Paperwork. Action. The kind that leaves trails and bruises in bank statements and courtrooms. After the lake house meeting, everything moved faster. Too fast for them to keep up. The silence from Michael's end wasn't peace, it was strategy. I knew that look in his eye. He thought he still had a play left. Thought I'd exhausted myself by going public. Thought I wouldn't have the stomach to finish what I'd started. He was wrong. Monday morning, Marcy filed the paperwork to freeze all joint accounts. Everything tied to the estate was halted. The properties. The investments. The pension plan. Michael was still legally my husband, but I made sure he felt like a ghost inside his own life. The locks on the house were changed. The cars re-registered. I even contacted the board of his company anonymously, just enough evidence to make them start watching his expense accounts. Not a takedown. Just pressure. A slow, suffocating pressure. Mom tried calling me 4 times. I let them all go to voicemail. Then I blocked her. But what I wasn't prepared for was Claire's third package. She sent it in a plain manila envelope. Inside was something unexpected, a birth certificate. Not mine. Not Ellie's. It was dated 1982. A boy. Born 6 months before I married Michael. The father listed? Unknown. But the mother, Evelyn Grace Roth. My mother. And under name given at birth, Benjamin Michael. I dropped the paper. My knees nearly gave. Claire included a note. She told everyone she lost the baby during labor. But I never saw a funeral. Never saw a grave. I think she gave him away. And I think Michael knew. It hit me like a wrecking ball to the chest. A child. A son. One she never spoke of. Born a year after Michael met her, but before I married him. If he knew, if they had that kind of shared past. Oh, God. I couldn't breathe. I called Marcy. Asked her to start digging, records, clinics, adoption files. Anything. And I asked Claire for more. Anything she remembered. Meanwhile, Michael showed up at the house. I didn't let him in. He stood on the porch, arms crossed, that smug calm cracking. "What are you doing, Diane?" he asked. "You're ruining our family." I opened the door just a sliver. There is no our family. There's just the version you use to prop up your lies. Ellie's hurting. Your mother's, she's not my mother anymore, I cut in. And Ellie will have to earn the right to be called my daughter again. He sighed. This isn't you. You never knew me, I said. You only knew the version who trusted you. That version is dead. Then I handed him an envelope. Inside, the birth certificate. He went pale. You knew, I said. Didn't you? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. His silence told me everything. They had a son. A son I never knew existed. A son they kept secret from me my entire marriage. And now I wasn't just betrayed. I was erased. But I would return the favor. Completely. Because the more I learned, the more I realized, this wasn't about love. This was about control. And I was done being controlled. The name on the birth certificate haunted me, Benjamin Michael. I whispered it over and over again in the dark that night, like it might unlock a memory. But there was nothing. My mother had never once mentioned losing a child. No stories of a stillbirth. No grief. No grave. Just silence. A perfect erasure. And that silence was now screaming. Marcy called me at 8:32 the next morning. She sounded breathless, like she'd run a marathon through legal records and back. Diane, we found something. A sealed adoption file. Private placement. June 1982. Signed by an Evelyn Grace Roth. I sat down, gripping the edge of the table. Where? Lansing, Michigan. The agency no longer exists, but we're digging through archived court orders. There's a judge's signature and an adoptive family's name, McClellan. The boy was renamed Benjamin McClellan. It sounded familiar. I knew that name. I hung up and went to my laptop. Pulled up old school directories from when Ellie was in middle school. She had a friend named Maya McClellan. I used to see her often at our house. She brought her older brother to pick Ellie up once or twice. A polite young man. He smiled at me kindly, helped me carry groceries once. Benjamin McClellan. I stared at the screen, cold washing over me in waves. He'd been in my home. He had eaten at my table. And no one said a word. I called Claire. You're not going to believe this, I told her. I think I met him. She gasped. Does he know who he is? I don't know. I don't even know if Michael knows. But I'm going to find out. I tracked down a work email for Benjamin through LinkedIn. He worked at a local nonprofit. I crafted a message, careful and vague. Hello Benjamin, my name is Diane Roth. I believe we may share a distant connection through a woman named Evelyn Grace Roth. I'd appreciate the opportunity to speak with you privately about something important. No pressure. Just some answers. Warmly, Diane. I hit send. And then I waited. Minutes. Hours. Days. Nothing. Until Thursday. He replied. Hi Diane, I've heard the name Evelyn Roth before, but it's not a name I connect personally to. My mother passed a few years ago, and there were some complicated gaps in my adoption story. If you have information, I'd be willing to meet. How's Saturday? I agreed. We chose a quiet cafe 2 towns over. Neutral. Private. And that Saturday morning, I wore navy and pearls, my armor now. I sat at the corner table, heart slamming against my ribs. I saw him approach through the glass. Same eyes as Michael. Same hesitant smile. He looked nothing like my mother, but something in his posture, shoulders too square, like he was always expecting to be judged, was hers. He shook my hand. Diane, right? Yes, I said. And you're Ben. He smiled. Most days. We sat. I showed him the certificate first. Then the photo of Evelyn. Then, finally, the journal page from Claire's fiancé. He read it all in silence. When he looked up, he was pale. My mom always said my birth mother was cold. She said she didn't want me, just wanted me gone. That she handed me off and never looked back. She didn't, I whispered. She buried you. He swallowed hard. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know where you came from. And because I think the man I married might have known about you this whole time. He leaned back, stunned. Michael Roth? I nodded. I interned at his firm when I was 19, Ben said slowly. He always took an interest. More than others. Asked if I needed help, if I was struggling. I thought he was just generous. He wasn't generous. He was watching his secret walk around in plain sight. I think you're the key, I said. To everything. And I think they never told you, because they planned to take everything. Ben looked at me, his eyes burning now. So what do we do? And I realized, he didn't just want answers. He wanted justice. And together, we were going to bring down the kingdom they built on lies. There's a strange comfort in holding hands with a stranger who should have been family. Ben and I sat in that cafe for nearly 3 hours, no cameras, no press, just 2 people piecing together the shrapnel of a lie that had shaped both our lives. His hands trembled as he read more from Claire's journal scans. There was no anger in his voice when he spoke of Evelyn, only a weary ache. She didn't want me, he said, over and over. She never wanted me. No, I corrected. She just didn't want me to know about you. Ben wasn't weak. He wasn't fragile. He was sharp, articulate, composed, but behind his calm was a storm waiting for direction. I gave it to him. I need your help, I said. Not just to ruin them. But to reclaim everything they tried to steal from us. From you. From me. He agreed. And that's when everything changed. We met Marcy the next morning. She laid out a plan, a formal paternity test, filed confidentially. A financial audit of Michael's investments, specifically any trust accounts that might have been redirected without my knowledge. And, if we were lucky, a paper trail linking Evelyn to the adoption, complete with falsified court statements. That would give us the nuclear trigger, fraud across 3 decades. Ben gave a saliva sample at the lab under a sealed alias. While we waited for the results, I made my move. I sent Michael a letter. Not a call. Not a text. A physical envelope, hand-delivered to his office. Inside, a photo of the birth certificate. a photo of Ben as a child, and a note that simply read, "You should have told me about our intern." No response. But that night, I caught him sitting outside our house in his car. Lights off. Engine running. Just watching. The next morning, I called his firm from a private number and left a message for the managing partner. Anonymous tip. You should ask Mr. Roth why he diverted $17,500 a month for 11 years to a trust under the name M. McClellan. Just ask him. You'll find the transfers between 2007 and 2018. I knew the numbers because Marcy found them. He was already on fire. I just handed someone the match. Meanwhile, Ellie sent me a single-line text, "I didn't know about the boy." I swear. I didn't respond. She had made her bed in silence. She could lie in it a little longer. The next bomb dropped quietly. Ben got a call from Michael. "I know who you are," he told him, calm and hollow. "And I'm sorry." Ben recorded it. "Send it to me." But what struck me most wasn't the apology, it was the offer that followed. Michael said, "If you keep quiet, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Financially." Like he was buying him off. Like his son was just another liability. Ben didn't answer him. But the recording was enough. Marcy added it to the evidence folder, now thick enough to sink a ship. The results of the paternity test came back 3 days later. 98% match. Michael Roth was Benjamin McClellan's biological father. It was real. It was official. And now it was mine to use. That night, I poured a glass of wine, sat in my study, and stared at the portrait of our family, me, Michael, Ellie, and the woman who birthed secrets into every room she entered. I thought about everything I'd lost. And everything I'd finally gained. Ben wasn't just my husband's shame. He was my vindication. He was the last thread they'd forgotten to cut. And now? He was the blade I planned to wield next. The first time I saw the article go live, I didn't breathe. It was a short piece, just a taste, but it was the start of an avalanche. Betrayal behind the boardroom, prominent attorney allegedly concealed secret child, internal trust records surface. No names. Not yet. But the buzz began immediately. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. Michael had spent nearly 40 years building a reputation of calm, control, and polished loyalty, both in marriage and business. Now, every ounce of that image was unraveling. And I hadn't even given the press everything yet. Just enough to make the sharks sniff blood in the water. Ben and I sat across from Marcy in her office the morning after the leak. "We have 3 paths forward," she said, laying out the strategy like a war map. Full legal filing with paternity and fraud claims. Quiet settlement that clears your name and severs all financial ties. Or, you take it to the court of public opinion and watch them burn. I chose a fourth option, all 3. We filed the paternity documents first. Sealed, but available if we needed them. Then Marcy began prepping for a formal press conference, just in case Michael tried to deny it. And behind the scenes, I hired a PR consultant, someone who could quietly ensure that when the story broke with names, it would be packaged with my narrative, not theirs. But before that, I had one more task, Ellie. She hadn't responded to anything since her one-line message. But when I showed up at her condo unannounced, she opened the door almost instantly, like she'd been waiting for me. She looked tired. Paler. Older. "I figured you'd come." I stepped inside, silent. She offered tea. I declined. "I didn't know about Ben," she said, before I could speak. "Not until last week. I never saw him as anything other than Maya's brother." "And if you had known?" I asked. "Would you have told me?" She opened her mouth. Closed it again. That was answer enough. "You let me sit beside Dad for decades," I said. "You let me smile at a woman who slept with my husband. And now you want sympathy because you didn't know the next secret?" Her eyes filled, but I didn't flinch. I'm giving you a choice, Ellie, I said. You can help me, stand beside me, speak publicly, take back some of your dignity, or you can sit back and let me do it alone. But either way, I'm doing it. And if you stay silent again, you're no different than them. She nodded slowly. What do you need? Your voice, I said. On camera. One video. You say the truth. Not all of it. Just what matters. She agreed. That night, we sat in a small, rented studio with a single camera and a lapel mic. She looked directly into the lens. Hands folded. Voice shaking. My name is Ellie Roth. My mother, Diane, was betrayed by the two people she trusted most, my father and my grandmother. I didn't protect her. I didn't say anything when I should have. And now, I'm trying to do better. There is a child, Benjamin McClellan. My half-brother. He didn't ask to be hidden. My mother didn't deserve to be lied to. She deserves the truth. This is my small step in giving it to her. It was raw. Broken. But honest. I didn't cry when she finished. I just said, thank you. By Friday, Marcy sent out the official press package. Timeline, evidence summaries, quotes from Claire and Ellie. Photos. Paternity confirmation. We controlled the narrative. And it hit like thunder. Local legal giant named in paternity scandal involving wife's mother, secret heir confirmed. She deserved the truth, daughter breaks silence in viral confession. The wife who rewrote the ending, betrayal, family, and a second chance. Michael tried to respond with a statement. Dry. Legal sounding. Empty. But it didn't matter anymore. Because I had the truth. I had Ben. I had the power. And I was just getting started. I always thought the sound of destruction would be loud, glass breaking, doors slamming, someone screaming. But when Michael's world began to collapse, it was eerily quiet. He didn't show up to the office the day after the full story went live. A friend of his from the firm, one who always secretly liked me more, sent a single text. He cleared out his office this morning. Just walked out. No press conference. No statement. Just, gone. But silence doesn't equal escape. The state bar opened an ethics review that afternoon. Something about false disclosures, misused trust funds, and an undisclosed dependent. The $17,500 a month account we traced to Ben was just the start. Turns out, there were others, silent payments, unreported donations, even a secondary life insurance policy naming an M. Roth Jr. with no legal beneficiary paperwork to back it up. His empire wasn't just morally bankrupt, it was legally vulnerable. And Evelyn? Oh, she wasn't spared either. Claire's story spread like wildfire once we sent it to the right journalist. The article was called The Matriarch's Mask, Secrets from Evelyn Roth's First Daughter. It exposed her decades-long manipulation, not just with Michael and me, but with men before him. Husbands, siblings, even clients she'd mentored. She had a pattern, and it was now stitched into headlines across 3 states. Someone leaked a clip from that old VHS tape Claire had sent me, the one where Evelyn said, "He chose me. Just like they always do." That line went viral. Suddenly, the woman who had always been admired for her elegance, her philanthropy, her charity speeches, became a cautionary tale. Her charity board quietly removed her from all leadership. She withdrew from the public eye. No more luncheons. No more award nights. Just silence. And shame. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just took a deep breath. For the first time in years, it filled my lungs completely. Meanwhile, Ben and I grew closer, not in a fairy tale way, but something better. Honest. He called often. Visited once a week. Helped me digitize old records and dig through years of Michael's financial statements. He asked me once, "Do you hate me for who I am?" I shook my head. No, Ben. You're not the betrayal. You're the proof that I was never crazy. He smiled then. And I realized that was the first time I'd ever truly seen my husband smile, the real one, the kind he must have inherited but never used with me. And Ellie? She came over with flowers and a printed photo of us from when she was 10, me, holding her on the swing set. We didn't talk much. Just sat. Drank tea. She still didn't know how to ask for forgiveness, and I wasn't ready to give it. But she stayed. That was something. But the revenge still wasn't finished. There was one final piece. You see, in the chaos of it all, I found an old document. Something Michael had never expected me to see. A property transfer deed, one that quietly moved our vacation cabin into my mother's name alone. Not shared. Not gifted. A clean, sharp transfer. Dated just 2 months before our anniversary party. 2 months before I found the lavender spray. He'd been preparing. For a life without me. That was the final straw. I sent the document to Marcy and said, I want it back. She filed a legal claim that week, fraudulent transfer of marital property. With the trust exposed, the paternity established, and the fraudulent deed in motion, the court had no choice but to put a freeze on Evelyn's assets, including the cabin. I wasn't just reclaiming what was mine. I was making sure they couldn't steal anything else. Ever again. Some people go down quietly. My mother wasn't one of them. She'd spent her entire life shaping herself into an image, a woman who commanded attention, praise, deference. So when her empire began to fall, she didn't retreat. She scheduled an interview. Live. On air. National. It aired on a Thursday morning. I sat alone in my kitchen, coffee cooling in front of me, the house quiet except for the echoing voice of a woman I no longer recognized as family. She sat in a pristine cream blazer, her pearls like armor, her hands folded over her knee. The interviewer leaned in gently, clearly briefed to go soft, but curiosity crackled beneath every word. Mrs. Roth, the interviewer said, you've been accused of having a decades-long affair with your son-in-law, of hiding a secret child, and of manipulating those closest to you. What do you say to that? Evelyn's voice was soft. Measured. Still coated in that grandmotherly warmth she weaponized so well. I think, she said, eyes moist, that people forget how complicated love and loyalty can be. We are all flawed. We all have chapters in our lives that we're not proud of. But I loved my family. I still do. And I think this campaign against me, it's fueled more by pain than by truth. Pain. Not truth. She smiled, grief painted over porcelain lies. My daughter is hurting. And when people hurt, they lash out. I just pray one day she finds peace and stops trying to destroy the ones who love her. I nearly dropped my mug. Even now, she framed herself as the victim. But she wasn't ready for what came next. Because just before the interview aired, I gave the network an exclusive clip, pre-approved by Marcy, time-stamped, authenticated. They played it immediately after Evelyn's segment, as she sat blinking into the camera. It was the voicemail. Her voice. Crackling through the studio speakers. We've worked too hard to keep everything buried. She's bluffing. Don't let her drag you into this. Michael and I will coordinate. The audience gasped. The host turned, stunned. Mrs. Roth, is that your voice? Evelyn's face collapsed, just for a second. A twitch. A flinch. I don't recall ever, but the host cut her off. The recording is dated 6 weeks ago. It was verified by a forensics lab. Do you deny it? Silence. My mother, the queen of words, sat wordless. The screen froze. Back in my kitchen, I smiled. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Ben. Did you see it? Yes. He exhaled. She's finished. Later that afternoon, Ellie called. I watched it, she whispered. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I replied. Just know that the truth has weight. And now they finally have to carry it. By the evening, the clip had been shared over 4 million times. Talk shows dissected every word. Old friends who once praised Evelyn called to check in and see how I was holding up. I didn't answer most of them. I didn't need validation. I had the truth. And the world had heard it, unfiltered, from her own lips. There was no salvaging her image now. No charity speech, no carefully curated garden party would undo that broadcast. Evelyn Roth was no longer a respected socialite. She was a cautionary tale. And I was just getting my breath back. After the interview aired, Evelyn vanished. No more statements. No more damage control. She retreated into the shadows of disgrace, where she belonged. But Michael, he was too arrogant for retreat. He didn't disappear. He recalculated. 2 days after the broadcast, I received a letter. Not a text. Not an email. An envelope slipped into my mailbox in handwriting I recognized instantly, his. Inside, a typed message on letterhead from his private attorney. The tone was calm, strategic, and nauseatingly familiar. Diane, let's not drag this out. You've made your point. I understand your pain, and I respect your intelligence. But we both know there are still things left to lose, for both of us. Let's talk. Privately. No lawyers. Just you and me. Michael. I read it twice. Then I laughed. I didn't respond. Instead, I called Marcy. Let's move the court filings forward. All of them. The next day, I froze his remaining accounts. Filed a formal petition to expose any remaining assets tied to fraudulent trusts. We now had legal standing to demand full financial transparency, including every cent he ever funneled under fake names. Marcy also uncovered something sweet. One of Michael's most recent property transfers, done 6 months ago, was already under review for failure to disclose a beneficiary. He'd tried to move our downtown condo to a shell company. The paperwork was sloppy. We exposed it. But Michael didn't stop. The next week, I got another letter, this one hand-delivered. It wasn't from his lawyer. It was from him. Just a single page. No salutation. No closing. You win. Are you happy now? You've destroyed everything. Ellie's barely speaking to me. My mother won't return my calls. The firm has put me on extended leave. People whisper in grocery stores. You say this is justice. But you've burned it all down. We built a life, Diane. And now it's a graveyard. If you still want the condo, the lake house, the accounts, take them. Just leave my name out of the press. You've said enough. I won't fight you. I won't survive if you keep going. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something stir inside me. Not pity. Not compassion. Clarity. He still didn't understand. This wasn't about the lake house. Or the money. Or even the affair. It was about the erasure. The fact that I gave my life to a man who slept with my mother and smiled in my face as if I'd never know. Who raised our daughter to normalize silence. Who groomed his world around power and kept me at the edge of it. So no, he didn't get to not survive on his own terms. I wrote him back. Michael, I'm not interested in survival. I'm interested in exposure. You could have left with dignity. You chose deception. You could have confessed. You chose to threaten me with pity. So no. I'm not done. You will sign over the lake house, publicly. In front of a notary. You will issue a written confession to the firm's board. And you will never, ever contact me again. Do this, and I might consider silence. But know this, my silence is now worth more than your name. Diane, I sent it through Marcy's office, official, legal, traceable. By Friday, Michael signed everything. The condo. The lake house. The downtown property. He attached a formal letter to his firm, acknowledging a failure in judgment and moral negligence. He resigned. And the next day, the media ran the story again, this time with a new title: Michael Roth steps down following personal scandal, financial misconduct allegations under review. He thought I wanted revenge. What I wanted was reality to reflect the truth. And now, finally, it did. The lake house sat like a forgotten poem when I returned, weathered and wind-brushed, its silence softer now. No more Michael's laughter. No more perfume soaked into the guest linens. Just the creak of old wood and the echo of what should have been a sanctuary. I hadn't stepped foot inside since the confrontation. Since I exposed the truth between those walls and left them to rot in it. But now it was mine. Legally. Officially. Finally. I didn't bring anyone. No Ben. No Ellie. No Claire. Just me and a key. The air inside was stale with secrets. I opened the windows, let the lake breeze roll through like a baptism. My footsteps felt heavy against the hardwood, but the weight wasn't grief anymore, it was possession. I walked through every room. Touched the backs of chairs. Ran my fingers along the mantel. Checked the bedroom closet, the pantry, the small drawers where once I'd found betrayal folded in linen and lavender. All empty now. Or so I thought. Until I stepped into the guest room, the one my mother had claimed as her space when she stayed. The one where I found her robe months ago. A drawer in the nightstand had always stuck a little on the right. I tugged it gently, heard the scrape of something against the inner wall. I reached back. There, flat against the baseboard, tucked between old insulation and dust, was a yellow envelope. No postage. No return name. Just a single word in her handwriting: Diane. I stared at it for a long time before I opened it. Inside, 2 pages. Handwritten. Slanted cursive, unmistakably hers. Diane, if you're reading this, it means you found everything. Or maybe just enough. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even ask for understanding. I only want to explain. Michael was never supposed to love me. It started with a look. A comfort. A secret we convinced ourselves was harmless. And then it grew. And I let it. I told myself it didn't count if no one knew. But the truth is, I envied you. You had a kind of goodness I couldn't fake. People loved you without conditions. And Michael. He changed around you in ways he never did around me. I wanted to be the center. I wanted to feel like the most important woman in the room. And when I wasn't, I punished you for it. Ben was my punishment too. I couldn't keep him. I didn't want to raise another child when I still hadn't raised myself. Michael offered to handle it. And he did. I watched you live for 38 years in a house built on my shame. And you never even knew. But you know now. I'm sorry. Not for what I did. But for the way I let it change you. You deserved more than a mother like me. Evelyn, my hand shook, but not from anger. Not anymore. This wasn't a confession. It was a last gasp. A dying attempt at control disguised as honesty. Even now, she wanted to frame herself as tragic. As complicated. As broken. But I didn't feel rage. I felt peace. I folded the letter. Tucked it back into the envelope. And then I walked outside, down the familiar path to the dock. The lake glistened like glass, still and quiet, waiting. I struck a match and lit the letter. Held it until it was too hot to keep, then dropped it into the water and watched it hiss and curl and vanish. I sat there for an hour. Not crying. Not mourning. Just breathing. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying her weight. I was free. I used to think legacy was something other people left behind: men in courtrooms, mothers who hosted charity galas, daughters who took your last name and turned it into something shinier. But legacy isn't carved in stone or stitched in blood. It's chosen. It's claimed. So I decided to write mine. It started with a blank document. The title was simple, The Lies I Lived With. At first, the words came slow. But then they flooded me, memories I hadn't touched in decades, truths I'd swallowed like stones, years of gaslighting and forgiveness that had never been earned. I wrote about Michael's affair, about Evelyn's betrayal, about Ellie's silence. I wrote about Ben, the son I never had but somehow still found. I even wrote about Claire, her exile, her warnings, her return. But most of all, I wrote about me. Not as a victim, but as a woman who survived a quiet war without anyone noticing she was bleeding. I didn't change the names. I didn't soften the truth. This wasn't a novel. It was a reckoning. When I was done, I printed 3 copies. Bound them in leather. One for me. One for Ben. And one for Ellie. I didn't send them right away. I waited until the lake house was fully transferred to my name and the divorce finalized. Michael had gone silent, probably in hiding. Evelyn, from what Claire told me, had left the state. Some whispered she'd moved to Arizona. I didn't care. Let her wilt under desert skies. I invited Ben and Ellie to the lake house one Sunday. They arrived separately. Ben brought flowers, lavender, of all things. He smiled sheepishly. I know what it reminds you of, but I thought, maybe it's time to take it back. Ellie brought nothing. But she wore the bracelet I gave her on her 16th birthday, the one she hadn't worn in years. I noticed that too. We sat on the porch. Just the 3 of us. The water was calm. The wind soft. I handed them each a book. Ben opened it and smiled at the title page. Ellie stared at the cover for a long time before saying, "You wrote this?" "I lived it," I replied. "Now it's yours to know." We sat in silence as they flipped pages. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," I said. "But I am offering understanding. If you want to know who I really was, behind the birthday cakes and bedtime stories and breakdowns, this is it. No edits. No lies." Ben nodded. "I think I already knew. But I'm glad it's written now." Ellie said nothing. But she didn't put the book down. Not once. Before they left, I handed Ben a separate envelope. He opened it, read the first line, then looked up in shock. "This is," he began. "Yes," I said. "It's your name. On the deed." I had added Ben as a co-owner of the lake house. Not out of guilt. Not out of pity. But because he had earned his place beside me in rebuilding something from the ashes. Ellie stepped forward. "And me?" I turned to her. "Your name is on the last chapter. That's where you get to write who you become next." She nodded, and for the first time in months, she hugged me, not stiff or afraid, but like a daughter who had remembered where her heart once lived. As they drove off, I sat alone on the porch again. The sun was setting. The lake was quiet. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't lonely. I had lived through betrayal. I had survived the storm. And now, I was the one writing the ending. Before I end this story, my story, I want to speak to you directly. Yes, you. The one still sitting in the wreckage of a betrayal no one else sees. The one who smiled through a dinner where your world had already collapsed. The one who keeps asking, was it me? Did I miss something? You didn't miss it. You just trusted them not to bury you with it. I gave 38 years to a man who stared into my eyes while sleeping with my mother. I raised a daughter who mistook silence for love. I celebrated anniversaries in a house built on lies. I laughed beside people who were planning my erasure in real time. But I didn't die there. And neither will you. Because the truth has weight, but it also has wings. For so long, I believed my power was in preserving peace. Keeping quiet. Holding families together by the seams of my own silence. But it wasn't peace. It was paralysis. And the day I stood up, not screaming, but steady, I began writing the next chapter. They lost everything trying to silence me. I found everything by telling the truth. Ben is my reminder that sometimes, life gives you back a piece of what was stolen. He didn't owe me loyalty, but he gave it freely. And Ellie, she carries the shame of her silence, but she's learning how to speak again. Not perfectly, but honestly. Michael lives in the shadow of his own legacy now. Evelyn, wherever she is, has no more mirrors left that reflect what she wants to see. And I live in a house they tried to claim without me, watching the water, sipping coffee, breathing in days that are finally mine. If you're still with me, if any part of this felt like your story, then listen carefully now. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not disposable. You are simply someone they underestimated. And when the time comes for your reckoning, your rise, let it be slow. Let it be silent. Let it be surgical. Let it make them wonder every night how you stayed so calm when you were already planning the fire. I'll leave you with this: they tried to erase me. So I made sure the world would never forget what they did. If this story touched something inside you, if you've ever survived betrayal and found your voice through the ashes, please like, share, and subscribe my channel. And tell me, where are you from, and what truth did you survive in silence?